In this exciting episode, we meet a roguish young man about to inherit some serious cash. The problem? He's a heel who couldn't keep a promise if it was tattooed on his back. It's Perry Mason, Season 3, Episode 9, The Case of the Artful Dodger. Welcome to the Perry Pod. I'm your humble host, Jonathan Searcy. My purpose here, pretty simple, provide an audio companion to the greatest legal drama in television history, Perry Mason. I plan to do an episode of every episode of the television series, and as time permits, I'll get to some of those made-for-TV movies too. I'll be working through the series in the order in which the episodes were aired. Every episode, I give you a brief refresher on the plot, compare it with the Earl Stanley Gardner novel it was adapted from, if necessary. Next, I list some key pieces of trivia before I tackle the episode's theme. Then we feature a Perry proverb, a pearl of wisdom from the man himself, before heading to the post-case water cooler, where just like Perry, Della, and Paul, we can discuss the ins and outs of their adventures. But first, to the law library! Each episode in the law library, we investigate some legal conundrum in the episode so we can find fresh precedents for future cases. Our law library visit today involves wills. Ah, yes. Perry should have a spin-off office that just deals with these living testaments, given the amount of death the guy traffics in. Surratt Winslow lives in an old 19th century New York house, and she was the beneficiary of a very 19th century will. Tell us about it, Surratt.
Henry wanted me to be taken care of. He said so in his will. It's just that it was up to Alan's discretion how much money I should have. That's all.
If I'm not mistaken, this is the kind of will featured in, say, Jane Austen's Sense and Sensibility. You have an obligated heir, but no specifics about what that obligation entails. So what happens? The Alan Sheridans of the world quickly skip out on said obligations. It sounds like a discretionary trust. That's my guess. My question is this. If old Alan isn't of age to receive his $162,000 payday, he's not 30 yet, then why is he the one who gets to decide what happens to Surratt? Where's the board of trustees, the ones we later learn allowed Alan to sever ties with Vic Lattimore, his financial manager? Also funny to me, the fact that the phrase take care of
Henry wanted me to be taken care of
gets used by Surratt, which, given the ersatz mobster presence in the episode, makes me wonder whether Henry Sheridan wanted Alan to, wink wink, off Surratt. Take care of her, Alan. But seriously, let's get to the plot of this episode. The Case of the Artful Dodger. Surratt Winslow's in a big house on her own, looking at a pile of bills. So she calls up her cousin's son, the tennis-playing and good-time-having Alan Sheridan, who's out hobnobbing it in Hollywood. She's upset, and while we see a grimace on Alan's face, he plays nice for a minute before...
I'll take care of everything. I'll send you the money over the weekend. I promise.
Alan, you promised your father, too, and it's in his will. You've got an obligation to me.
Oh, for the love of... Look, I gotta go. Goodbye.
Oh, no, he didn't. Surratt follows up on a name Alan gave her, one Ralph Curtis. And what does she do to Ralph? She hangs up on him, just passing along the telephone violence.
Well, you shouldn't say that, Miss Winslow. Hello, Miss Winslow. Hello.
Surratt takes what little money she has and flies to L.A. Meanwhile, our boy Alan is running game on his girl Joyce Fulton. He's spinning a new yarn about gamblers and debts, and it involves the murderer from the case of the Sunbather's Diary.
Live it up while you got the chance, like there's no tomorrow.
That sounds very much like a threat, Mr. Caporal.
No. If I'd said, get the $5,000 or you'll bleed. Now that's a threat. But I didn't say anything like that, did I? So, I'll see you tonight, kid. My door's always unlocked to you.
Sheridan wants to get out of town. Plane ticket, you know, until things blow over. So he's hitting up his financial manager, Vic Lattimore, for some cash too. And we get more insight into just how prodigally Alan lives his life.
Well, Alan, your balance amounts to exactly $14.
I know how little I've got. Victor, I want you to loan me the $5,000.
Alan, I'm afraid I'm going to say no. Oh, it isn't a loan. Even if you had that much money in your account, I would still have to refuse for your own good.
For my own good.
Well, all this gambling nonsense is as true as Alan's claim that he couldn't send money to Surratt because he was sending cash to Ralph Curtis. Here's Lou Caporal revealing his inspiration for the gangster portrayal he gives to fool Joyce and Vic.
It was a great performance, Lou. Early George Raft and a touch of beatnik.
Wait a minute. Beatnik and George Raft? Are you kidding me? Where are the bongos? Where's the bebop jazz? Where's the funky cigarette? Step it up, Lou. The point is, Alan just wants to get some parting cash from Lattimore because he thinks Lattimore's been grifting him. He's supposed to get, that is Sheridan, is supposed to get $162,000 when he turns 30. And that happens tomorrow. And he's blowing town. Cut to Surratt, who comes into town, rolls up to the lavish Sheridan estate, and promptly finds Alan's body. Wah, wah. After leaving the heel of her shoe by the corpse, Surratt runs off in a conspicuous way so as to be spotted by everyone's favorite beat gangster Lou Caporal. And next thing we know, Surratt's at Perry's looking for help. When Perry calls to talk with Sheridan, the body's gone. And Surratt is happy?
Oh, he's not dead. Thank heaven he's not dead. He's not dead.
Alan's cleaning lady finds a pool of blood, and she gets in on the Lorene Tuttle trademark screaming action. The police arrest Surratt for the murder, and we actually get a kind of opening statement from the prosecution. Tell us about your case, Hamilton.
And then the defendant, Surratt Winslow, confronted Alan Sheridan, her own cousin. And when he resisted her pleas for money, she contrived to kill him. Her motives were anger and greed. And finally, Your Honor, we intend to demonstrate how within that same hour, the defendant returned to the scene of her crime to obtain and cold-bloodedly to dispose of the body of her victim.
The case highlights a bunch of facts, like how did Sheridan die? It was an ashtray. And how do we know Sheridan was a vain so-and-so? He sunbathed a lot.
Now I show you this blanket and ask if you've seen it before.
I have. Alan used to leave it out on the porch. He used to take sunbaths on it.
Who are our suspects? Well, there's Lou Caporal, George Raft devotee, ersatz gambler, and beatnik. He's just guilty of bilking Alan Sheridan's financial manager out of 5 G's, though. Maybe some overacting as well. There's Vic Lattimore. Blackmailer? Well, it seems he played poker with Alan and was privy to Alan's role in the injuries of one Ralph Curtis. Not a murderer, but the dude isn't as pure as the driven snow either.
What percentage did you take of the decedent's income as your fee for handling his so-called allowance?
Well, in this particular case, 25%.
Doesn't the normal fee for the type of service you render range from, say, 3% to Maybe 5%?
Oh, but Alan needed all sorts of special service. You see, he came out here with things all tangled up.
What about Ralph Curtis, the man who flew to Mexico City as William Wyatt and absconded with $162,000 of Alan Sheridan's cash? Well, he's got a backstory.
All right, I did take the $162,000. But I didn't kill him. I just took advantage of what he'd already set up. Seemed like some sort of justice.
That leaves Joyce Fulton, the gal pal, the lover of Ralph Curtis. Oh, man.
Why did you come back out here, Ralph?
I couldn't leave you here all alone. I couldn't. Not after...
After I killed him? Yes, I let him die, Ralph. Look what he did to you.
Lorraine Tuttle doesn't have much to say, other than...
Oh, I'm so grateful and so thankful.
She'll be picking up that check, too, because $162,000 is hers. Trag doesn't leave his mark in this episode, but he does get a compliment from his partner in misinterpreted crime.
I believe you said that also applied to the fingerprints.
Yes, sir. Someone had tidied up.
Tidied up. Very well put, Lieutenant.
Yeah, well, Perry's the real one who tidies up each episode, gentlemen. Stick that in your pipes and smoke it. Now, let's get trivial, shall we? Each episode in our trivia section, I give you 3 takeaways. A Paul is a subject worth investigating more. Adela is something about a particular actor or actress in the episode. And a Perry is something we learn about our intrepid hero. Our Paul for this episode involves the cost of airfare. At the drop of a hat, Sarette Winslow is catching an American Airlines flight from New York to L.A.
Information? The phone number of American Airlines, please.
We know as well that Ralph Curtis caught a flight, as William Wyatt, from L.A. to Mexico City. Our Paul prompt, then, is this. How much would these tickets have cost in 1959 cash? It sounds like they were direct flights, too. Bonus prompt, which airline would have been most likely to provide transport for Curtis from LA to Mexico City? Was there in-flight entertainment? Come on, Pauls, you can do it. Our Della for this episode is Jerome Cowan, a.k.a. Victor Lattimore.
What's the sudden need for money? Finally answering one of your aunt's letters?
Here's 10 about Jerome. Number 1, Cowan was born in 1897 in New York City. His dad was a Hartford, Connecticut candy maker. Number 2, Cowan began acting at 18 in some summer stock theater companies. Somebody get Earl Malden on the phone. Number 3, Cowan served in the U.S. Navy in World War I. Number 4, Cowan cut his acting teeth on Broadway in the 1930s and then came to Hollywood in 1936 at the behest of Samuel Goldwyn. He ended up appearing in over 100 films, most of them in the 1940s. Number 5, his iconic film roles include Sam Spade's lecherous partner Miles Archer in 1941's The Maltese Falcon.
You're right enough. They have brothers in her bag.
What do you think of her?
Oh, she's sweet. Maybe you saw her first, Sam, but I spoke first.
You got brains. Yes, you have.
He's also the hapless prosecutor of Santa Claus in 1947's Miracle on 34th Street.
I understand the post office receives thousands of these letters every year.
I have further exhibits, Your Honor, but I hesitate to produce them.
Oh, I'm sure we'll be very happy to see them.
In 1944, he appeared in Crime by Night with Jane Wyman, where Cowan was the main protagonist, a kind of Sam Spade detective, although Wyman got lead billing. Wyman's biography describes Cowan as a fine character actor, but someone who, in the 1944 film, looked his age, 47, and was not particularly handsome. Number 6, from 1947 to 1949, just 3 years, Cowan appeared in 8 Blondie films as Blondie's boss, George Radcliffe. Number 7, Cowan's film roles slowed down in the 1950s. He began to appear in more television shows, 2 Perry Mason episodes. You'll remember him as the deceased in Season 2's The Case of the Lost Last Act. Other series he appeared on included, not for publication, The Tab Hunter Show, The Tycoon, and of course, an episode of The Twilight Zone. Number 8, his last screen appearance on the Butch Cassidy and Sundance Kid knockoff television show Alias Smith and Jones. Number 9, Cowan was married twice. The first marriage yielded a daughter, Suzanne. He was married again to Helen, and with her had a daughter named Diane. Cowan was married to Helen until he died. And number 10, he died in 1972. You can find his gravesite at Forest Lawn in Hollywood Hills. Our Perry for this episode concerns our intrepid hero's automobile. As he has for all of Season 3, Perry rocked the 1959 Ford Fairlane Galaxy 500 convertible. What a car!
Here are the world's most beautifully proportioned cars. The altogether new 1959 Fords. This is the car that brings Thunderbird elegance to the low-price field. Every square inch of metal and glass is completely and tastefully new.
Our theme for this episode, dodging. Avoid, evade, sidestep, circumvent. Oh, there's a whole lot of it going down in the case of the Artful Dodger. Alan's obvious, but everyone else is avoiding things too. First, Henry Sheridan. Why leave the will ambiguous, Henry? You're begging Alan to do Surrette wrong. Don't dodge. Surrette, avoiding the truth when she initially talks to her lawyer. Dodge. Lou Caporal at Globe Studios when Perry wants to check out the trunk. Dodge. Vic Lattimore, why you earning that big percentage, Vic? Dodge. Ralph Curtis, trying to avoid responsibility for his impersonation of William Wyatt. Dodge. And Joyce Fulton, this whole scheme is right up there with the case of the Lonely Heiress, with the long con involving her romancing the enemy of her supposed lover, Ralph Curtis. Dodge, dodge, dodge. Fortunately, Perry always confronts the truth. And when you see Ralph Curtis and Joyce's histrionics in court, you know it's impossible to dodge reality forever. Now, it's time for a Perry proverb. Listen up, all you law enforcement officers. Perry's got a bit of wisdom for you over-eager police types trying to prey on his clients. Perry's talking to Trag in this particular proverb, but he's actually talking to everyone who wears a badge.
I'm sure you can always get her, Lieutenant. With a warrant.
Trag finally does get the warrant in order, and off Lorraine Tuttle goes. But Perry's made it clear he's no pushover. Engrave this proverb in stone. That's his identifying mark, Trag. Now, let's grab a swig from the water cooler.
You know, there is one thing I don't understand. Go on, Paul.
Each episode in the water cooler, we offer deleted scenes where we imagine some sequences that didn't make the episode's final cut. Number 1, a montage of the Sheridan cleaning woman encountering spills of various kinds. Number 2, a shoe ad that advertises the fact that its heels won't get caught in those pesky deck planks when you're trying to escape the scene of a crime.
Well, these slatted wooden porches were never designed for a narrow kind of heel like this.
Number 3, Lou Caporal trotting out all his Hollywood impersonations with shades of Goober in his startling Cary Grant impersonation.
Judy, 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 Judy.
Number 4, Ralph and Joyce having an awkward conversation about how much Joyce is getting into her role as Sheridan's girlfriend. Shades of Marilyn Clark and Charlie Barnaby. And number 5, finally, Perry waits a beat after Surratt says she's grateful and says, "And I'm thankful that you'll be picking up tonight's tab," before Paul promptly orders another steak. Our last Paul prompt concerned Rosemarie Reed, the woman who designed the swimsuits used in the case of the barter bikini. We asked, was Rose a Rick Stassi or Lisa Ferrand? And Aunt Myra wrote in with the answer. It seems Rose was neither. She was more of a Dunbar. Quote, Rosemarie Reed, a Canada native, was a successful swimsuit designer from the 1940s to the 1960s. By 1946, 50% of the swimsuits sold in Canada were her designs. Her swimsuits dominated the American market and were popular in Western Europe, South America, and Australia. End quote. Aunt Mai also notes that her brand currently available at Walmart and on Amazon, and Target was even sold out. Great find, Aunt Mai. Just wanted to mention that Aunt Mai opened her message to me by saying that she wanted to obtain an identifying mark for herself. Don't we all? Dedicated listener April also wrote in to say, quote, I cannot be the only one who says to the law library along with you. Another excellent episode. I loved all the tidbits about Kitty. It's nice when they're still alive and kicking. I like it when they're alive and kicking too, April. As always, I'd love feedback about this episode or the podcast in general. Was there something about the episode you'd like to comment on or correct? You can email me at theperrypod@gmail.com. All episodes available via Spotify, YouTube, and iTunes. Join us next time, where for the first time in Season 3, we get an episode based on an Earl Stanley Gardner novel. It's the case of the good-looking Gams. Just kidding. That would be stretching the alliteration gimmick too thin. Fun fact, this was the first alliterative title in Gardner's Mason series. It's the case of the Lucky Legs. Until then, this is Jonathan Searcy saying, keep on walking that Park Avenue beat.